Good morning, I'm Frank Powers, and this is Open for Business, the program where I network with business owners, the bosses in charge of the startups, storefronts, and services in the Southwest. Our entrepreneurs are educating you on how they impact our community, and they are here to give you insight into their ideas. Let's add some new contacts today. Today being the very first episode of Open for Business, and I'm super proud to have a nicer, newer show today. But when I was thinking of my first guest, I didn't know what to do. I was in a real pickle. And you know, if you're living here in Tucson or Casa Grand or really anywhere in the Southwest, when you're in a pickle, one man comes to mind, and I'm lucky enough to have that man sitting right here with me. It's Scott Lehman of Premier Auto Center. He's the dealer for the people. Scott, welcome to Open for Business. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing great, Frank. Thanks for having me on. And I'm honored to be on the very first show.
Yeah. It's blowing my mind, to be honest with you. So I really got to thank my boss, Debbie, in charge for taking care of some business and getting you in here at such short notice, because show launching really as fast as we could get it done, and getting you in here is really an honor. You can't see it because it's radio. I'm wearing my pickle shirt right now. Scott shows up, I'm wearing his shirt.
Gotta love it.
I do love it. And
you're wearing the 2023 version. We have a version every year.
Oh, do you do one every year?
Yeah, it's a different color. It's a different style. We have one with a mask on that came out in 2020.
Oh, that's amazing. That's hysterical. So fun. I can't wait to talk to you about some of the wacky persona that you do have when it comes to your ads, but also a lot of people, they think that this is who you are when you're home eating dinner. I suffer from some of this too. A lot of people think I'm like the macho man Randy Savage. Oh, yeah. Because I dress up and I'm a cartoonist and I have a lot of fun in town, that they aren't really aware that I can just kind of calm down and talk and have a nice conversation. As excited as I am to be sitting here with you. So I really appreciate it, how you advertise, what you do, and being bold enough to be silly. Dare I say wacky?
A little bit.
Yeah.
But, there's two things. Funny as money. And number two is same as lame. If you can't stand out, nobody's going to remember who you are.
Oh,
so the important thing is you got to be willing to get out of your comfort zone. Sometimes act a little goofy, a little crazy.
Heck yeah.
Wear a silly costume.
Yep.
so that people will pay attention. Otherwise, you just become wallpaper.
Yeah. And that's the trick. And being bold enough to do that. Again, wearing a silly costume does a lot. I feel like it does half the work for me. I mean, how much do you feel like the pickle suit one has, like, really, is that do you think that's the top one when it comes to a lot of your ads?
Probably that's the most memorable one. And mostly because it always kind of runs the longest. It's kind of our summer campaign.
Yeah.
And we've run it every year just because it resonates well with people. And it's a little calmer version of me. Mm-hmm. Sometimes that helps. and so anyway, that's why people remember that so well, is because it is different.
Yeah.
Some people remember the Lucky Buck better. Some people, there's just so many. I've created probably over 60 different, characters.
Yeah.
Over the years.
Because they're characters.
They're characters, right? And so we had trading cards made. So
I have a pack of those. I do have a pack of those.
Okay.
Yes, I have a pack of those.
And I was amazed at how many additions we could come up with for the trading cards. And it's just because they're just silly and fun. And sometimes they get spun off. We have one campaign that was a storybook campaign. And my daughter suggested, she says, hey, you should make each one of those characters. So we started spinning those out every year. And so we would take the wizard out of it. And then that became kind of fun, just creating those new ones each year and seeing how many people connected it to the original one.
That is something. Yeah. My favorite one is, I was just saying, the wrestling one you did. I told you about this.
Oh, gosh. You did Randy Savage much better than I did. But
I love that one because to me, that is you wrestling. Even when that came out, it was top. Even right now, wrestling's still pretty much top. And it was just so perfect and poignant for when it was happening. Oh, you didn't realize that as a wrestling fan. I'm like, he's got his finger on the pulse. So
SummerSlam. Yeah. That was probably one of the hardest ones for me to do because it was so far outside of my normal personality that to do that one was a real challenge because that's just not me, but sometimes it took a little while to get into that character, but once I got in there,
it's there.
It was there.
just like Johnny Depp. That's how it works. You got to get into that character.
Yeah.
So let's actually find out a bit about who you are. Let's find out who the real Scott Lehman is. So tell us how you got into the business of selling nicer, newer cars today, and really how you got started. Let me learn about young Scott Lehman.
Well, I got involved in the car business way back in 1994. If you remember, there was a little bit of a recession back then as well. and I needed work, and I got recruited into the car business by a fella that had bought appliances from me when I was in the appliance business prior to that. I've always been selling something. And so he convinced me that I would be a good car salesman. And he said, my name came up and we think you'd be good. Why don't you come out and try it? And oh my gosh, once I got involved and I saw how fun it was, I was immediately hooked.
Yeah.
And so I worked for new car dealerships in different capacities for about, maybe 13, 14 years before I had the opportunity to start my own little car lot down the street.
Yeah, that's how it starts.
I had no idea really what I was doing. I knew how to sell cars, but I didn't know how to run a dealership. There was a lot of learning to go on. So I started that in 2007. But I knew I was in a little small town, Casa Grand, right up the road. That's where I was born and raised. The challenge was all we really had was a newspaper. And you had radio stations in Phoenix that poured into Casa Grand, but you couldn't afford to go on those. And so I said, I've got to get somewhere where I can be who people know me as today.
Yeah.
And I couldn't afford Phoenix. So I said, well, let me see what Tucson looks like. And one of my idols in the car business, really, even back then before I even came here, was Jim Click. Because I thought, man, that guy really does it right. If there's like a role model for a car dealer, I think Jim Click is a great one.
Wow.
Does a lot of stuff for the community. He's just a good operator. And I've always admired the way he was as a car dealer. So I looked at Tucson and I managed to find the location that I'm at, managed to negotiate with the guy well enough. He got him to believe in me enough that he would lease me that place until I could buy it. And we opened in September. I ran my first commercial in October. And the rest is kind of history, as they say.
Wow.
That went crazy. It was a dump your clunker.
Yeah.
This was during the Obama era stuff where they were getting rid of all the crappy cars.
Okay.
And they had this whole dump the clunker things. We tied into that. It was always about tying into the stuff going on around you. So we tied into the dump the clunker without the government red tape. It went like gangbusters. The next thing I came to work that morning, the lot was full of people. We had no idea what to do. We weren't staffed for it. We didn't have the cars for it. I mean, it was literally, baptism by fire. But
Yeah.
I found out then the power of mass media, radio, advertising. And, if you do a clever commercial that stands out and you offer something that people want, be ready.
Yeah.
And so that's how we got started here. And eventually that was in 2011. I moved here in 2013 or 14. And, I live here permanently now. I bought a house here, and this is home for me. So I love it here.
Heck yeah. Well, welcome home, because Tucson loves it.
Yeah.
And it's been awesome because we were talking off the air and I said, to me, it is a lot of community that makes this place work. And even again, to hear you talk about how you look up to Jim Click and talk about that, but also talking about how that person leased it to you because he kind of believed in you. I have a similar story when I got my first business before I went mobile with it, is someone did. They could get like $4,000 for that place. And they rented it to me for $15,000 because they believed in what I was doing for art. And that's what did it. And if that person had believed in me and let me do that for a little while, I would have not gotten to where I am today with everything else I'm attempting. And again, I really believe that that's what Tucson does when it comes to networking and really making those connections here in town, because people are nicer. People, I think, are friendlier. Again, I'm from New York, so it's a low bar to a degree. But yeah, it's interesting when people are friendly and they kind of want you to succeed, especially when you can kind of pitch it to them on like why. And your passion shines through in the commercials. It shines through whenever I see anywhere, giving a talk or doing something like that, because we've bumped into each other around town. But it's really inspirational. So I really enjoy hearing about that. I'm letting some of these folks know a bit more about you just as a person and as a Tucsonan.
When I first looked at coming here, some people that were familiar and were locals here, I was not that familiar with Tucson because you're kind of trained in Casa Grande to drive to Phoenix. So we didn't really come here very often. But then when I made the decision to come here and talking to people that lived here and were more familiar with the Tucson area, one of the things that sticks out to me is they said, well, it's really a small town of 1 million people. And I thought, because I'm coming from a little town of 40,000 people,
Yeah.
And I will tell you that is an absolute, so I reuse that phrase all the time to people that don't understand the Tucson areas that it truly is a small town of 1 million people. And the way that people interact with each other is pretty remarkable for a city of 1 million.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's a big city. It's bigger than many of the cities you can think of in terms of population. But boy, it sure doesn't feel that way. So that's another reason I love it here in Tucson.
I agree. So let's talk about just what does a typical day for you look like?
Well, it's different now than it was back in 2012 when we were getting started.
Sure.
But today, my day typically, I have an office space that I go to, and it's really spent really trying to understand, honestly, the new advertising world.
Good point.
Because it's changing really fast.
Constantly.
And I have honestly been a little slow to adapt to, some of the digital space because I was just it's hard to be that guy on a two-dimensional picture on a computer screen, right? It's really hard to get that across. So I've been really slow to adapt to that. Learning that I have to, because that's where people are.
Yep.
So I have to find a way to maintain kind of my character and translate that over to the digital space. So I spend a lot of my time researching and looking at best practices on that kind of space, just so I can maintain my connection with our customers and our fans out there.
What's a tip that you could give people right now that you might have discovered like recently about just some of new marketing and using new media?
Well, I will tell you that AI is very helpful in figuring out all the nuances of that space. And, my belief right now is that man cannot live on Google search alone.
No.
There's so many other things out there. And so that's what I'm really trying to wrap my head around, all the different ways, all the different channels that you can show up on.
Yeah. I started using ChatGPT just for list me this, find all these Instagram handles. Boom. You can't Google that. Where it produces you a nice list or produces you something. And so I've started using ChatGPT as Google. Yeah. Where you do that and it does give you better results as opposed to just like, here's a list of links.
I believe in a very short period of time, and it's not a real popular opinion, but I believe that chat will overtake Google search. I'd like to say by the end of the year. It'll probably be longer than that.
Yeah.
But I do know that it is where people are going to go for answers.
Yeah.
So that is a lot of where people are headed, and you gotta be aware of that.
Yeah. And you kind of meet them where they're at to a degree. Otherwise, you do get left in the dust. Here's a question. Do you have a TikTok?
I don't.
Because I don't either. And people are like, how do you not? And I'm like, because I just kind of hate it.
I do.
And that's the problem. But we got to get over it. We got to get over it because I suffer from it. I suffer from it too.
Yeah.
And it is where it is like getting someone to help you with the TikTok stuff because you got to take away these pain points from you so that you can have someone like, look, I just need you to do this part. I can handle this. I can be the artist. I can be the performer. You got to handle this part because it is tedious.
It is. And that's it. TikTok is one that I was just researching a bit on yesterday, trying to get some ideas around what to do on TikTok, who the audience is, how that whole platform works. But there's so many platforms. There's Snapchat. There's that. There's, there's X and there's Facebook and Instagram. And it's just so fragmented today. From a marketing perspective, when you're talking about a business owner, like, okay, so where do I spend my advertising dollars? Oh my gosh, trying to allocate that to the different channels is honestly mind-numbing.
Because people live in those channels. Like I used to say when you have a blog, don't just have a Tumblr, you got to have one on WordPress, you got to have one on this one, you got to have one on that one, copy paste because people live on those sites. They don't go to the other ones, and that's how you find those audiences. It is a trial, but I'll tell you the thing that does seem to work the best is, yes, still television, still radio, especially for cars, because that's where people are. When they're driving in their car, a lot of times it's the radio that they're listening to still, obviously. So that's probably a bit of why it's where we hear you the most still, because even TikTok, it's a whole different audience. It's interesting to wrap our heads around it. I'm sure that as we go forward, still trying to learn it, it is going to get more streamlined because of AI and because of things like Hootsuite or other things where you can post on your various platforms from one location. And all of that. But yeah, I've had a tough time even adapting with it and moving forward. But that's why it is probably a good way to spend your day. Is just like, you just got to keep analyzing it.
And that's a big portion of my day is that. So
let's talk about just what you offer. Like detail the products and services that you do offer. Because again, let's just talk about Premier Auto Center. let me go to the website. It's scottsaysyes.com. And you also offer where people can fix up their cars as well.
Yeah, well, and that's new to Tucson. One of the things I pivoted into over the last year is in the kind of the independent service center. So I was able to acquire a location on Oracle Road between Fort Lowell and Prince, right on Oracle Road there, and Premier Auto Service Center. And because people now are having to hang on to their cars a little longer, the affordability issues out there. So we wanted to provide a way to maybe help people hang on to their cars, keep them running. And so we opened up that about October for reals, and then kind of played around with it a little before that. But now we're open in earnest there and doing a great job. We got some great certified master techs in there. I got a terrific manager in there that's been in this business for decades that really knows how to take care of customers. And, we're doing, I think one of the things that sets us apart at that, in that space is we offer free loaner cars if you're getting your car fixed.
Oh, wow.
And, on approved repairs, we can give you a free loaner car to use while we're getting yours fixed so you're not without a ride. And you're not having to bum rides or use Uber or whatever.
That's huge.
Now, sure, we'll give you an Uber ride if you need one, or we'll give you a ride somewhere. But if you need it, if it's going to be a few days, if it's a big repair, we'll give you a free car to use. And then all of our repairs are guaranteed for 3 years, 36,000 miles nationwide. So you don't have to worry about if we fix the car, it's going to stay fixed. And if it doesn't, we're going to fix it again for you at no charge. So we offer a 3-year, 36,000 mile warranty on all our repairs. So give you a little bit of peace of mind and create some convenience as well. And then anyone listening to this, you get a oil change for only $19.95. So
there you go. Mention open for business repair. That's how it works around here.
I just mentioned open for business.
Funny.
So that's our service center. Like I said, it's on Oracle Road there, right halfway between Fort Lowell and Prince Road, in a great, terrific location. We got 10 bays in there and some great technicians. We're looking at getting certified to do some of the calibrations now in vehicles. They call it ADAS.
Okay.
And so sometimes you might bump into something. They got an alignment. And, the lane avoidance stuff that's in all the new cars today.
All these smart cars.
All these smart cars. They got to be recalibrated every time that happens. And so we're going to get certified to be able to do those as well. That's the service side of things. And then on the sales side of things, I say all the time that we don't sell cars. We sell solutions. Our job is to solve problems for people, transportation problems. And it's not always about, maybe somebody's credit isn't good enough. A lot of times it's, they got stuck in a car that doesn't work for them anymore. Maybe they got divorced. Maybe they got married. Things happen in life. Maybe they started commuting a long distance and they had a gas guzzler, so now they owe money on a car that really doesn't fit them anymore. Well, what we're going to do is try to figure out a way to solve that problem, whatever it is, that's keeping you from getting the car you want and deserve. That's really the focus of what we do. Our goal is to change people's lives. And that's what, when you asked me about the car business, that's the thing I loved about when I first got into this car business, was that a car is a really important thing in a person's life. And when you can do something that someone else couldn't, then that is where I really find purpose and joy. Because that is, and you've changed their life in a way that you probably wouldn't even know if you weren't paying attention. And this happens everywhere, even at other dealerships, but they just don't know it because they're not attuned to it. But there's times where we've had, if you stop and ask the customer, hey, how does this car change your life? I've had customers break down in tears saying, you don't understand. I haven't been able to pick up my daughter and go on visitation with her because I was on a bus. And now I can actually go take my daughter and maybe go to the zoo or go to a park, which I haven't been able to do. And this guy was in tears. This is a grown man in tears in the showroom saying, you guys changed my life.
Yeah.
Because everyone else had told me no. But you guys found a way to get me approved and get me a nicer, newer car. So those are the things when you pay attention and do those kind of things, that's what makes all the difference in the world. And that's what you find purpose in. Just selling a car. If all I was doing, Frank, is selling cars transactionally, right? You give me money, I give you a car, see you later. I honest to God, I tell people I'd rather sell mail order turtles. Because at least I know I made somebody happy.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, if I got a turtle in the mail, I'd be quite happy.
Right. So honest to God, it's just, to me, just selling a car to sell a car isn't fun.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really, I don't know, it doesn't make me feel good.
Well, I'll tell you, because the way you describe it, and again, you can hear him, this ain't no sales pitch. It's real, because we're talking about getting a new car. Is one of the biggest things in anyone's life, isn't it? Like second after buying a house, that it's might be one of the biggest monetary commitments someone makes, but also one of the most important that they make, because it is life-changing. What changes your life more than being able to get off the bus and ride with us, like you used to say?
Yeah.
And just have your own car. It's giving you your freedom to just get out of the house. As teenagers, we all know that's what we need the most. Just let me get out of this house and get in that car. And that's a big, big deal.
Sometimes the car is the thing that makes a difference at getting you a better job on the other side of town. So, I mean, it's just so many things that happen when you have a reliable transportation. And it's not just, it's not just a feel-good thing for you. It's really a necessary thing for a lot of people. And you talked about the get off the bus and ride with us. This is kind of a funny story. I was flying to Alaska. I'm a pilot. I was flying my plane to Alaska.
That's right. You are.
When the bus strike happened. And I hear about it just before I take off from Seattle. So I said, oh my gosh, I got to write a commercial about this, because we need to help those people. And so in the air, I write this commercial. I land in Juneau, go to the hotel, and I record that. That was recorded on an iPhone in a hotel room. And I sent the ad back. And, I got a lot of grief about that from people. They're like, oh my gosh, you're exploiting this thing, this bus strike and all of this, because we were offering people $500 if they turn their bus ticket in to get another car, right?
Yeah.
But you would be shocked at how many people who didn't think they would ever get off the bus came in and found out they could.
Yep.
And the freedom it gave them was amazing. And we heard it over and over. And, honest to God, it was kind of the starfish thing. Maybe some people were, thought I was exploiting the strike or whatever. And we couldn't help everybody. But you know what? Like the starfish, when you throw them in, I helped that one. And all it really took for me was help one person get off that bus. But as it turns out, we helped a lot of people get off the bus. And that was a really, really powerful thing. And, we acted quickly, and because we knew there was a need, and it worked well.
No, that's just an opportunity for people to get them to know, like you're saying, it's like they didn't think they'd even ever be able to do it. Showing them that, seeing is believing, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people, when it comes to self-esteem or when it comes to some of these doubts, a lot of people talk themselves out of opportunity. And
a lot of them have lost hope. They've been told no so many times that they're like, I can't ever do it. Yeah. And, I explained to my team that, listen, you have to listen with empathy. You have to do everything. You got to work as hard as you would for your grandmother to help those people. And if you're not doing that, then I probably don't need you on my team.
Yeah.
Because that's the attitude I want my team to have.
Yeah.
And it's just because it is so important. And if you lose sight of that, if it just becomes a transaction, like I said, I'd rather sell turtles.
Well, again, you might have a burgeoning business right there anyway, okay? Box turtles in a box right to your house. That's what we could call the company. Oh, my goodness. It's amazing. Let me ask you, as we're already winding down, but I'm just going to keep you a little bit, just what is advice you can give to someone starting a business today?
Boy. First thing I would do is suggest reading the book E-Myth Revisited.
Okay.
And that is all about running a business sometimes isn't about the passion that got you into that business. Maybe it's cooking, maybe it's cutting hair, whatever, right? And that's your passion, but you find out that running a business is a whole different animal.
Yes.
And there's a lot more responsibility there. And I think you have to consider that before you decide to do that, because you might lose the passion for the thing that you want to do. If you're not careful.
Yes.
That's number one. Number two, make sure that you are capitalized well enough to get the business off the ground. They are hard to get moving. And it takes a lot of time, energy, sweat equity, and unfortunately cash to get a business going, because you have to survive the first several months until you can build your business and get it going where it can sustain you and can sustain itself. So those are probably the two big keys. And then the other thing you got to be able to do is really define your customer, figure out who your customer is and how you're going to talk to them, how you're going to reach them. And if you can do those things, I think you got a good start on getting a business off the ground.
Heck yeah, I appreciate that. I'm going to ask you a couple more. What's the biggest challenge you've ever overcome as a business owner?
Ooh. I would say one of the biggest challenges right now is one of the biggest challenges I've had to overcome is happening right now.
Okay.
And that's this, this whole economic situation we find our customers in primarily, right? This whole affordability thing and trying to find a way while cars are expensive, trying to find a way to get those affordable to people, trying to find a way to get affordable financing to those people. That has been going on now for a little over a year where it's really been squeezed and made our jobs so much harder. And that's probably the biggest challenge from a business perspective I'm having right now that I've ever had in all the years I've been in any of the businesses I've been in. I've been in a lot. And this is probably the number one, probably toughest road I've gone down, to be honest with you. But we're finding ways. And like I said, I spend my days researching, trying to find the best way to keep things rolling. You know, it's we're going to hang in there, and we've been hanging in there, and we're going to keep doing the things we have to do to help customers. So
it's a lot of bob and weave, and I think anything is the climate of anything. It's a lot of adapting, right?
Be nimble.
You got to adapt. Yes, you got to adapt. You got to be nimble. And I have this. I want to ask every single guest going forward. So you'll be the first person to answer it. And again, I already can tell what some of it's going to be, but I just want you to define success.
Oh gosh. Well, and certainly that's different for everyone else. But for me, defining success is a life that you can look on and say, you know what, I helped these people. It's really not about like what you have and can add up or count or how big a car you have or how nice a house you have or any of that. It's really about like how did I impact other people and how did I impact other people? And if I've done that, and if I do that every day, it's a successful day. And it could be employees and it could be customers. It could be people that are neither. But it's just, to me, it's a matter of you really have to measure yourself by how many people you impacted in your life. And to me, that's what's important.
I knew it. I could tell when he was talking about cash. I was like, cash. I knew it wasn't about the cash. It's about the people. You can tell because he's the dealer for the people. Because today we network with Scott Lehman of Premier Auto Center. You can go visit him over at scottsays.yes.com. Scott, thank you so much for meeting with me today.
Frank, thank you for having me. And like I said, I'm humbled to be on your first episode. I wish you many, many more.
Thank you so much. Remember, Premier Auto Center is open for business. Premier Auto Center is located at 1355 West Wetmore Road, and Premier Auto Service is over at 3350 North Oracle Road. I really enjoyed that meeting with Scott Lehman. You could tell how excited I was right there in the beginning, but I really did enjoy the questions that we talked about later and just talking about business and success and kind of what it means. Were just great answers, and I'm going to ask many of my guests going forward some of those same questions. Some good advice, funny as money, same as lame. You know, I can live by that motto. And the small town of 1 million people is something that I know is very, very accurate and something that I have known for quite some time. Don't forget, go mention open for business and you'll get an oil change for only $19.95 at Premier Auto Service. The full name of the book that Scott recommended is The E-Myth Revisited, Why Most Small Businesses Don't Work and What to Do About It, by Michael E. Gerber. I'm looking online right now and you can find it used for under $4, maybe even as little as $3. But go look for that book, probably used at a local bookstore here, and support the commerce here in Tucson. And again, just good advice. I've asked lots of questions on various shows. No one has ever actually given the advice of read this book. So I myself am going to read this book, The E-Myth Revisited. You can visit Scott over at scottsays.yes.com as well as azautorepair.com. And I want to thank our new friend Scott Lehman for joining my network today. You've been listening to Open for Business. If you're a business owner that would like to be on the show, email fpowers@azlotus.com. For more information about this program or to listen to something you may have missed, go to the Sunday mornings page on klpx.com, kfma.com, mixfm.com, crankthehanktucson.com, or espntucson.com. You can also subscribe eventually on iTunes, Spotify, and YouTube, or wherever business podcasts are for the people. Follow on Facebook and Instagram at Best Frank Forever because I'm your BFF, Frank Powers, and Toot Toot Tucson. Powers out.